In the quiet, unfolding narrative of Genesis, there emerges a passage that has puzzled, intrigued, and inspired interpretation for thousands of years. Genesis 6 introduces an enigmatic phrase. The sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. To a casual reader, this may seem like a simple record of attraction or human behavior. Yet the text, in its brevity, invites profound reflection. Who are these sons of God? Who are the daughters of men? And what are the theological, moral, and spiritual implications of this encounter, set in a world that would soon face the judgment of the flood? This is Bible Scope, your place to find light, find truth, and find purpose. If this journey speaks to your heart, like the video and subscribe to walk through Scripture with us. The Hebrew phrase B'nai Elohim, translated as sons of God, resonates deeply across the tapestry of Scripture. These words are simple, yet layered. Are they divine beings? Angels descending to the earth? Are they the godly lineage of Seth, standing apart from the corrupted descendants of Cain? Or are they powerful human rulers, exercising authority beyond what is rightfully theirs? Each possibility has implications, both literary and theological, for understanding the narrative arc of Genesis. The text itself provides minimal elaboration, yet this economy of words invites careful attention. The sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful, and they married any of them they chose. The passage draws a contrast, however subtly, between these figures and the daughters of men. The latter are human, and their introduction is framed in aesthetic and relational terms. They are beautiful, yet this description is more than superficial. Their beauty symbolizes the allure of desire and the moral challenges inherent in human attraction. The union of these groups, whether angelic or human, precedes a moral crisis. The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time. Here, the text does more than narrate. It diagnoses, revealing both the depth of human inclination towards sin and the careful observation of God. To fully appreciate this passage, we must consider its historical and cultural context. The ancient Near East was rich with stories of divine beings interacting with humans. Mesopotamian literature recounts demigods, hero figures, and celestial beings mingling with mortals. Genesis, however, stands apart in tone and purpose. It is not a myth celebrating heroic exploits. It is a moral narrative, sober and reflective, emphasizing divine order and the consequences of transgression. The sons of God are not romanticized. Their union with the daughters of men is neither celebrated nor trivialized. It is a breach, a precursor to the moral collapse that will necessitate the flood. From a literary perspective, Genesis 6 verses 1 to 4 functions as a hinge between the genealogies of early humanity and the forthcoming judgment. The passage is densely packed. Genealogical lines, human moral failure, divine observation, and the looming flood are all interwoven. By situating the enigmatic sons and daughters within this literary structure, the text encourages readers to see patterns and themes that echo throughout Scripture. Obedience, free will, divine oversight, and the consequences of moral failure emerge as threads connecting Genesis 1 through 9, and even beyond, into the prophetic and Christ-centered narratives that follow. The spiritual significance is equally profound. God's gaze is attentive. He sees not only actions but also the inclinations of the heart. Humanity is portrayed as both creative and vulnerable. Choices matter, and even seemingly private acts reflect the moral climate of the earth. The narrative communicates a principle that resonates through time. Freedom without responsibility is fraught with peril. God allows freedom, yet holds humanity accountable, demonstrating both justice and mercy. The symbolism of the sons of God and daughters of men invites reflection. The sons of God, in many readings, represent the divine presence or authority entering human history, reminding us that God's creation is never left to autonomous forces. The daughters of men represent the human, mortal, and relational dimensions of life, including desire, beauty, and vulnerability. Their interaction is fraught with both potential and peril, illustrating how human choices can magnify disorder when detached from divine guidance. This is a story not of sensationalism, but of moral architecture, an illustration of the tension between divine order and human freedom. The interpretive debates are illuminating. In the angelic reading, the sons of God are divine beings whose interaction with humanity demonstrates the boundaries set by God. In the set-height view, they're the righteous descendants of Seth, contrasting with the daughters of Cain, a line associated with corruption. In a human authority reading, they are rulers whose misuse of power demonstrates the consequences of sin in positions of influence. Each interpretation invites careful consideration, emphasizing the text's richness and the prudence required in theological reflection. Verse by verse, Genesis 6 offers a layered examination of human nature and divine oversight. The phrase, "married any of them they chose," emphasizes freedom, yet highlights the moral tension and choices detached from God's guidance. This moment is a lens through which we can understand the recurring biblical theme. Human action carries moral weight, and God observes the heart, not just the outward behavior. This attention to the heart recurs throughout Scripture, from Samuel's reflections on Saul to Jesus' teaching on the Pharisees, highlighting an enduring principle. God's concern is both action and intention. Historically, Jewish tradition has preserved expansive interpretations. The Book of Enoch, for example, elaborates on angelic descent, the teaching of forbidden knowledge, and the corruption that follows. While canonical scripture does not provide such details, these traditions reflect the interpretive struggle and moral reflection provoked by Genesis 6. Early church fathers, such as Augustine, debated whether this passage referred to literal angels, human corruption, or symbolic moral lessons. Their discussions remind us that Scripture invites contemplation, not immediate simplification, in terms of human reflection. This passage challenges us to consider ethical responsibility, the exercise of freedom, and the stewardship of power. It invites questions that are deeply personal. How do we exercise the freedom granted by God? How do our actions, even in private, influence moral realities around us? How do we respond to the allure of temptation while maintaining fidelity to divine order? By approaching the passage meditatively, listeners can encounter these truths not as abstract doctrine, but as personal guidance. The passage also illuminates patterns of sin and divine intervention. Just as the flood represents a corrective response to moral collapse, the narrative of Genesis 6 frames the need for renewal. Human failure is neither ignored nor excused. It is observed, judged, and prepared for rectification. The sons of God and daughters of men, in this sense, exemplify both the beauty and danger of human creativity, desire, and initiative when misaligned with divine intention. As we reflect on Genesis 6, we recognize the complex interplay of divine and human agency. God's sovereignty is absolute, yet human choices are consequential. The narrative does not absolve humanity of responsibility, nor does it reduce God's role to passivity. The tension invites meditation. How do divine oversight and human freedom coexist? How do we honor God's presence in our decisions, relationships, and ethical life? The passage becomes a mirror, reflecting our own moral landscape and inviting careful, prayerful consideration. Extending further into practical spiritual reflection, the passage reminds us to be attentive to the inclinations of the heart. Our actions, guided or unguided, shape the moral fabric of our communities. Just as the sons of God and daughters of men influence the trajectory of early human history, our choices ripple outward. We are called to discernment, to observe not only what we do, but also why we do it and how it aligns with God's intent. The narrative teaches vigilance, humility, and the recognition of God's constant watchfulness over creation. Finally, Genesis 6 invites us to meditate on restoration and hope. Though human failure is apparent, God's narrative moves toward redemption. Noah and the ark symbolize renewal, offering a vision of divine patience and restorative justice. Even in the face of moral collapse, God's intention is to preserve, restore, and guide. The sons of God and daughters of men are a narrative tension, a cautionary tale, but also a prelude to the promise of divine renewal. As we have walked through this passage, its layers unfold slowly, requiring reflection, attention, and reverence. We are invited to see history, morality, and divine care intertwined. What insight strikes you most profoundly? How does this passage shape your understanding of responsibility, freedom, and God's watchful presence? If this exploration helped you grow, like the video and subscribe. Your journey through the pages is just beginning.